Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
Okay, one more topic we're going to talk about right here on the Investor Coaching Show. Let's get into, Evan, let's talk a little bit about what are the things that you might want to teach your kids about money. Okay, so we're talking about planning in your 50s and specifically getting into, like I said, we want to talk a little bit about planning for your kids. Things that you might be telling your kids in your 50s because you're not going to be around forever, but they need to start planning as well because they don't have forever. And maybe there's some mistakes that you made in your life that you might want to help them avoid. What are some of those things you typically find, Evan?
Yeah, well, typically one of the things is parents don't talk about money with their kids.
The no-talk rule.
Period. Yeah, and
because this is taboo. You don't talk about that stuff.
Well, taboo, and sometimes it could be embarrassing. Sometimes even something that's not a mistake, I would say, but you maybe had a time where you might have lost a job, money was really tight, and you got really good at not spending money, but you view that as a failure, and so you don't talk about it with your children. And so I think even just talking about the hard times, not even so much a mistake, to be honest, of, well, we didn't have this money, we didn't want to spend money we didn't have. An example for us was, this is kind of during the 2000 thing, and I had changed jobs and had a very aggressive non-compete with the previous firm. And we took the kids to the thrift stores. We would shop on federal holidays because the thrift store was 50% off. We would go to the library and use, videos and things like that instead of just, turning loose of money. All of those things, we sometimes apply meaning to those that aren't accurate, but they're very effective, and particularly in the area that we live in and the clients we work with, a lot of the children, a lot of your kids have a very skewed view of wealth in general.
Yeah, and I think that's not only that, but they have sometimes a really skewed view of investing. Yeah. I've had parents say, well, I don't dictate anything to my kids, I don't tell them what to do, and maybe introducing them to some of these concepts, because I've had parents that do go, hey, you know what? I made a lot of mistakes with investing early on, and it cost me dearly. I can't tell you how many times I hear, we wish we had met you 20 years ago, or, something like that. Well, that might be a really good thing to introduce your kids to as more of the academic principles of investing. Because I see a lot of younger people now investing in things that aren't investments. Like, for example, cryptocurrencies and gold, and they're investing in individual stocks. Matter of fact, there was a study that showed that investing in individual stocks is ballooning. It's going up like crazy. And the reality of it is individual stock investing is very, very hazardous. If you go back 50, 60 years, it wasn't nearly as risky as it is today. Companies come and go much more rapidly today than ever before. So teaching and passing those lessons on to your kids, getting them to understand, maybe as you do now like never before, that you don't have forever to plan for retirement. Right. That the future comes much more rapidly than we often give it credit for coming.
Yeah. And how we spend money has changed since when we were growing up. And used to, we'd hear about the envelope system, and I'd take a certain amount of cash and divide my paycheck into envelopes, and we paid cash. Well, you don't handle a lot of cash anymore. It's tapping your phone on something or a debit card. And so just talking to them about budgeting and cash flow, having a home for each dollar, where is it going? Hey, do you realize you spent $75 on coffee this week? Just some of those tips so that those dollars are freed up to do investments that you don't make mistakes with.
Yeah, let me give you just a little bit of a psychological spin on this too, because I think this is really, really important. So often our kids want to impress us with how successful they've become because our opinion of them is so important to them. maybe helping them understand that you're proud of them. They don't have to have the fanciest car. Matter of fact, it may not be necessarily a good idea to have the fanciest car or the biggest house, especially when it's just trying to prove to you how successful they are. Helping them understand how proud you are of them and how you really want to see them succeed, and passing this information on in that way is such an important thing. Because quite often kids they try to live to try to impress not only people that they don't like, but they may be trying to impress you as well.
Right.
Just thinking in terms of ideas to pass on to kids. Quite often kids, I actually saw a study of it. It was interesting. It was asking younger people who they turn to for advice about things. And it was thought that younger people like to turn to the internet or friends or something like that, or books or whatever. You know what the number one source of information for finances was for these kids in the study? Number one by far was their parents.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, isn't that? I thought it was really, really good. So you may have more influence than you think. And help them understand the issues of debt and how it can create problems, future life problems for them. Help them understand a little bit of what you've got going on and the hardships that you face, because we learn from other people's mistakes if we are wise.
Yeah.
Sure. Some of those things I think are really, really important. Anything that you want to add to that?
Oh, just even, they're at a point where maybe you need to let them know, hey, maybe they need to go get some insurance, maybe, all those kind of things that we maybe put off till 30, 35, talking about mistakes. Hey, you've got to address these issues now, and it's typically less expensive the sooner you address some of those things.
And they need to think about planning. Successful people, one of the interesting things that we find about successful people is they typically have coaches that guide them, teach them, help them along. It's losing weight's easy. Move more and eat less, but the reality of it is that and finances can be really, really a challenge. So think about those things and those lessons you can pass on to your kids.
Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. You want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. You can watch some of the videos there, and if you're not already a client, you can set up a free initial consultation. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.